everyone, this is Joel from 8400 Lights, and today I thought I would give you a behind-the-scenes tour of our 2019 Holiday Light Show. Alright, I thought we would start by looking at the main power supply for the show. In this case I have two 20 amp circuits that I had installed to various points outside and then feed back to this central location here. And then I have them wired into this timer up at the top here. We can take a look at this a little closer. And this is just an electronic timer that I have. It's a double pole single throw, so I can use this to turn off and on everything on the show, which is a good thing. The controllers themselves don't take much power, so I could leave those powered on for the entire duration, but I also have some blow-ups that I use, as well as some other elements in the show that are continuously powered, so this allows me to turn them off and on a time. And then I also have wired into this these little meters down here that I can look and see what each circuit is drawing in terms of amps. I try to keep it fairly evenly balanced between the A and the B, or the 1 and the 2, however you want to do it, between the two different circuits. This isn't running too bad right now, but I can keep an eye again on this as I want throughout the duration of the show. And then if I don't want those turned on, there's actually a little switch that's wired right there that I can use to shut those meters off so they're not on all the time. And then I also have a pair of switches right here that I can use to either route the power for these circuits up through the timer, or if I flip those into the down position, it just turns the circuits on continuously without using the timer. Over here in the top of my tool chest, I have an area that I put my show computer as well as my amplifier for my outdoor speakers. I have 4 outdoor speakers as well as a transmitter for my radio station. We'll kind of look at the show computer first here. We'll zoom in on that. Here we can see some of the things that are going on with the show computer. I've got the Light-O-Rama control panel showing right there now, so I can see what's going on with my show. To the right of that, the little program that's running in the black command prompt is my Weather Watcher program, which goes out and gets current weather data and feeds it into the Zara app, and I use the Zara app to play music during the day. And everything is all set up on timers so that the Zara runs from about 7 in the morning until about 10 to 5 when it automatically shuts down. And then the light show comes on at 5 and runs till 10 o'clock. And it's all automated. It just sits out here. I usually close the cover for the toolbox, keep a little bit of heat in there, and it just sits and runs. Next to that, to drive my outdoor speakers, I have just an older aftermarket car radio that I went out and got a 12-volt adapter and am powering that, and then it has a direct connection to the laptop for its audio, and then I've got 4 audio cables that run out the side of the garage and plug into my 4 speakers along the side of the house. And then of course up above I have my FM transmitter for my radio frequency that again has an audio cord that comes down and plugs into the show computer to get its audio, and then that audio line also runs through a filter to help clean up that audio signal. Now, new this year, I have split my network for the controllers into 2 different networks. I've got 39 controllers right now, 9 of which are CMD 24s, and then about 30 CMB 16s, for a total of just under 700 channels if you do the math, and was experiencing quite a bit of lagging last year with the show. So this year I've split everything into two different networks. So I've got a regular network and an aux-A network. Again, have just two of the regular adapters running two different RJ45 lines out of the laptop and then out into the various controllers throughout the yard. And we'll go out and take a look at all of those. So here is the first section of the display, and really the display is split up into 4 different sections, and each section has different elements and props in it. This section starts off with having a small series of mini trees here. Again, these are just standard tomato cages, typical construction that you see on these, turned upside down, wrapped with lights. In this case there are 8 of these mini trees. I used to scatter these mini trees around randomly, but this year I decided I would put them more in a direct line and see what kind of an effect that gives me. And I've decided that I really like that effect much better than using the random approach that I did before. Right next to that is one of the larger trees that I have put lights in. This one has 8 different channels of lights. There's one there that is wrapped around the trunk, and then the other 7 channels are split into the branches of the tree there. I've built a lot of these utility type poles here that you can see. It's just a piece of either PVC or plastic electrical conduit that I have put drywall screws in on a regular basis. These are about 3-inch spacings, and this actually helps me wrap the lights around the base of the trunk here in a much more expedient fashion, rather than having to wrap all the way around and make myself dizzy as I go back and forth. I can just simply zigzag back and forth. And again, you'll see this technique used in a lot of my props where I wrap lights around some kind of object. So at the base of this particular tree is one of the bins where I put my controllers in. These are just standard plastic bins that I've then taken and cut a round hole in the side and then used some marine grade vinyl and created a little flap over it to disguise the hole, and use that to run my cables in. And here's what it looks like inside. You can see I've got holes on either side to run cables into, and in this case I just have one 16-channel controller for the mini trees and this one tree that we've just been looking at, and it just sits in there. In this case it's connected via an ELL, you can see there, and then a cable running off to some of the other controllers. And this is pretty much how I have all of my controllers set up. We'll see these bins all over the place. It's a nice way, it keeps it really pretty watertight. I really don't have an issue with this, and it keeps everything out of sight. The next element that I have here in the front are these fire sticks. Some people call them fire sticks. I've heard them called light towers. These are 5 towers of 8 channels each with a 3-channel star on the top. Let's see if we can get a nice zoom in on the stars. There we go. At the base of the fire sticks are 2 more of our bins of controllers. In this case we have 2 bins with 2 controllers each in them, 16 channels per controller. And these control the fire sticks, the stars, and a few of the other miscellaneous props that are up here in the west part of the front yard. Behind the fire sticks is the first set of leaping arches that I have. I have 3 sets of these leaping arches. There's 4 arches per set. In this case there are 4 channels per arch, which isn't a huge number of channels per arch, I know, but it still gives a pretty nice effect. So here is the controller for this particular set of leaping arches, and in this case I have 2 CMB24D controller boards in a single enclosure tied to a 350 watt power supply, and then they come out to drive each individual channel on each individual arch. And it just sits right in a bin like this. Here we have just some additional props that are spaced here in the yard. Got a little tree there, a little small evergreen there, has lights in it. This taller evergreen here has some lights in it. We have a fountain here that has a net light thrown across on it. And then a couple of small evergreens here that have some lights on it. New this year are these lights on these brick supports here. There is 8 channels per brick support for a total of 16 channels. Again, if we zoom in here, we can see that I built one of these little pipes to use to wrap the lights around each brick support. And again, each pipe is marked off in sections so that I can easily tell how big each of the 8 sections should be when I am wrapping the lights. There's one of the indicators for a start of a new section right there. Right back here is another bin. In this case, this particular bin houses one 16-channel controller for those brick supports we were just looking at. And then also right here is one of the outlets that I was talking about earlier that has my 2 20-amp circuits in it that drive the show. At the front of the house we have these 3 lit topiaries, and then we have a little penguin blow up to greet people as they come up to the house. I'm a big Peanuts fan, so we have this little mailbox here with Snoopy, and we have Woodstock that pops out when you open up the mail. Now on the roof line of the house, might be a little bit hard to see here, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. I have a series of icicle lights that trace the entire roof line of the house and go all the way around. So you can see some of those. Those are all different channels. There's actually 17 channels in total, which is an odd number, makes it very interesting to program. And I may change that down to 16 one of these days just to make it a little bit easier to program. Also on the front here, I have a 7-channel Santa face that I picked up. And then also on the front here, I have a series of RGB floodlights. 5 are pointed down and 3 are pointed up to give some color wash to the front side of the house. So that will really illuminate the front side of the garage here quite nicely. So here is the start of the second section of the display, and this is the east side of the front yard as well as the side of the house. We've got some lights put up here on the mailbox, just a net light thrown around that just to add some color. Here we've got one of our blow-ups. We're big Star Wars fans, so we love BB-8, so we had to have a BB-8 blow-up. And then this tree trunk is one of the trunks that is wrapped similar to how those brick supports were wrapped earlier. It has 8 channels of lights on it. Again, if I can get a zoom, you can see the little utility pole that I created to help wrap my lights around it. Here we have another bin that has the controller in it for this tree trunk that we were just looking at. Again, a 16-channel controller, only using half the channels at this point, along with the ELL that connects this section of the display to the section of the display that we just looked at over on the east side. And then here is the first of 4 Marty fans that I have in the display. This is one here and one here. So I have 2 in the front of the display here. And these Marty fans are 8 channels each. Again, one's red and one's clear, if I remember correctly. I do a lot of 8-channel work. I know a lot of people think 12 channels maybe gives a little bit better motion, but I like the fact that 8 channels is exactly half of a controller, so you can run 2 props like this on a single controller. Then in front of that here, I have one of the, not quite a mini tree, but just a tree that I've reworked, and I've added 8 different channels of lights on this one. So this one tends to, it's not a spiral tree, it doesn't spiral, but it does tend to spin around, which is kind of a cool effect. And then here in the back, I have the first of what are 5 of my candy cane spinners. Again, these are 8 channels, 8 different candy canes. Again, if you want to see the assembly of these, I would encourage you to check out our time-lapse video where you can see how these are put together. At the base of that candy cane is a bin with 2 16-channel controllers in it that take care of the 2 Marty fans that we saw, as well as the 1 little LED tree and this first candy cane spinner. Now this part of the display is also where I have my other 2 sets of leaping arches that are just like the leaping arches that we saw in the west part of the display here. In this case, they are strung in line together, so instead of only having 4 leaping arches, it looks like I have a row of 8 leaping arches. Here is the bin with the controller for the first set of leaping arches. This is similar to the other leaping arch controller. It has 2 CMB 24D controllers in it, along with that same 350 watt power supply. Then here is another one of our blow-ups. Again, we like the Minions, so we thought this guy was pretty cute. New this year is this tree right here now has some lights in it. I always think it's kind of cool when trees are all lit up with lights wrapped in them. So this tree is finally old enough and big enough that I was able to put lights in it. And so we'll see what this looks like this year. Hanging off the roof line on the side of the house here, we have a couple of props. One, we have a little Happy Holidays sign. And then a little bit further down we have a Christmas wreath that is hanging, and then we have another sign here that says Season's Greetings. At the base of the house here is another bin with controllers in it. In this case I have a 16-channel controller that is dedicated to running the Santa face, as well as a few of the props here on the side of the yard as we go through that. And underneath that one, you can't really see it too well, but there is a controller that has a CMB 24D that runs the floodlights on the front side of the house that we looked at just a minute ago.